To watch these important lessons, subscribe to DP Education's YouTube channel right now. Click on the bell icon to stay updated on the latest lessons. Sri Lanka's largest free online school, DP Education.
Hello my dear students. So I hope that now you guys have prepared for your O-level examination. Now as a support, now in here we'll be discussing a paper that would support your O-level examination, my dear children. So you know that our O-level examination, in our O-level examination, science is a very compulsory and very important subject. So my dear children, science, you know that's when you take the science paper, the O-level science paper mainly focusing about 3 sections: biology, physics and chemistry. So out of these 3 sections, my dear children, will be receiving a 4-hour paper. All the theoretical parts related to grade 10 and 11 will be examined over here, right? So I think now you guys have prepared for your O-level examination very well, and I hope that you guys have covered all the theoretical parts in our O-level syllabus related to the science, my dear children. So if you haven't, you can refer the DP Education YouTube channel, and from that you can get entire syllabus starting from grade 10 to end of grade 11, right? So my dear children, today I'm about to discuss a good important paper for all of you guys who is going to face O-level examination. Now this paper is 2022 O-level examination paper, science examination paper. So 2022 O-level science examination paper, when you take in no matter what is the year, when you take the O-level science paper, my dear children, right? So within the O-level science paper, there are 2 papers, paper 1 and paper 2. Okay, now this slide is reflecting about the paper structure, the first part of the paper structure. So first of all, here they have mentioned the examination type and the year. So this is 2022. You know that 2022 paper was postponed to 2023. So that's why they have mentioned 2023 in here. So 34E part 1, this is our paper, the number of science subject, right? So this is the general certification of education, the ordinary level examination 2022. So when you take the first part of the paper, my dear children, in the first part there are 40 MCQ type questions. MCQ type questions. So here you need to select the most appropriate answer out of the 4 responses given. So here you will be receiving a paper, a small bit of a paper. Actually, you don't need to underline this thing. You will be receiving a paper, right? Within the paper, you need to, make a cross, right? Within the paper, you need to make a cross for the correct response. So there are 40 MCQ type questions, right? So you need to select the most appropriate answer out of the 40 MCQ type questions. So here there are like 8. Then in the next one, from 9 to 17. Then my dear children, from 18 to 26. Then like that way up to 40, there are questions. So when you take the paper, right, the block paper, my dear children, it's like this. So for the first question, like this, there are 4 responses. For the first question like this, there are 4 circles, 1, 2, 3 and 4. So this is 1, this is 2, this is 3 and this is 4. So now let's check the first question. So what is the organ that mainly performs the nitrogenous excretion of the human? So answer is kidneys. So kidneys reflects the first response, right? The organ that mainly performs the nitrogenous excretion in human being is the kidney. So it reflects the first answer. So you don't need to underline number 1 like this, right? What you need to do is you can need to go to that paper which you receive like this, and you need to cross number 1 like this. Okay, now you have to finally hand over this to your invigilator after the time is going to end. So this is how you do the first paper in the first part of the, I mean, like when you do the this is how you do the first paper in your science subject, my dear children. Okay, so actually I think usually, or else most often, when you go for the term test in your school also, you'll be receiving these kinds of paper structures. So therefore I think you are familiar with these kinds of papers, and by doing, like marking these kind of stuff within the paper, my dear children. Okay, so I hope that you guys good and you guys have a good knowledge about answering the question paper. So this is a brief discussion about how to answer the first part or the first paper in your science paper, my dear children. Okay, right then. So remember, there are 40 MCQ type questions. You need to select the most appropriate answer in the first part, right? So without any further discussions, we'll move on to answer the first paper in your O-level science paper 2022. So let's head on to see the first question then. So my dear children, let's head on to see the first question in our paper then. So here now you are given with the question, the first one. What is the organ that mainly performs the nitrogenous excretion of the human? So they are asking about the organ that mainly performs the nitrogenous excretion. So let me remind you, what do you mean by the excretory products first. So when you take a chemical reaction, you know that within a chemical reaction, there is a certain product which is getting created. So these products we can divide into two main categories as main products and byproducts, or else excretory products. So when you take a biological reaction like respiration and other metabolic reactions, so within these reactions also there are some main products which are needful for our body, and there are byproducts. So nitrogenous byproducts means byproducts that contain nitrogen like urea, uric acids, and so on. So this is a quite simple answer, my dear children. When we are studying about the excretory system, the human excretory system, we have learned about the kidneys. So mainly we focused about the kidneys when we are learning about the excretory system, my dear children. So over there we discussed that the excretion, mainly this nitrogenous excretion, is being processed by the organ kidney, and within the kidneys there are smaller structures like millions of structures which are called to as nephrons. These are the ones which processes the nitrogenous excretion, and finally they have been expelled from our body as byproducts. The main byproduct which carries the nitrogenous byproducts are the urine, right? So the answer is quite obvious in here. Our answer should be kidneys, my dear children. So let's head on to write down the answer. So our answer is kidney. So we'll underline it. So what about lungs, my dear children? Lungs are processing the excretory products which are created because of the respiration, right? So over there, the lungs are removing carbon dioxide and water vapor as the main byproducts or excretory products. So lungs cannot be taken as an answer for excretion of nitrogenous waste materials. Then the skin. So skin is also correct up to a certain level. That means like it's going to release some amount of urea and uric acids, right? Some amount, not that much heavy amount, very little amount. Okay, sweat is correct. Skin is correct. Sweat is the form which those things are getting expelled. So skin is a correct answer, but remember here we need to choose the most appropriate answer for the question given. Okay, So even though the skin is correct, these guys are asking about the main one, the main organ that performs the nitrogenous excretion. So the main organ that performs the nitrogenous excretion, my dear children, is the kidney, right? Liver is also incorrect, right? So we can't select liver, right? So as there are main organ which performs the as the question is given as main organ which performs the nitrogenous excretion, here we have to take the kidneys. Okay, so our answer is kidney. Right then, so let's head on to see the second question then. The unit of pressure. Unit of pressure. Now, pressure means force applied in unit area of a certain substance, right? When you take a certain substance, let's take a table. So on that table, when we are applying a certain force on that particular area, a certain kind of a pressure is created. So pressure is defined to as the perpendicular force which is applied on unit area. Okay, so by that relationship, we can get a formula like this. Pressure is equal to, in simple we can write this thing as force upon area. Okay, force upon area. This is the equation in order to find out the pressure. Now special thing here is that, my dear children, you need to remember that we apply this formula when we are calculating the pressure related to solids. So when we are calculating pressure related to fluids, we use a different formula. P is equal to H rho G, right? Height into density into gravitational acceleration, right? I hope that you guys could remember those things. So we have discussed those things under the hydrostatic pressure part. Okay, now here they're just asking about the unit of pressure. So we just by applying this formula, right, we can find out the unit of pressure. So you know that force is measured from newtons. Force is measured from newtons. This is the international standard unit for measuring force, right? Force is measured from newtons. So area, you know that area is measured from square centimeters, square meters, and so on. There are several units, but here we have to substitute the international standard unit which used to measure the area. So here this case, my dear children, the international standard unit is square meters. So we need to substitute as square meters. Now, my dear children, you know that there is a certain relationship. You can take this square thing to upper to that upper part, right? So when you are taking this square term to that upper, what will happen? The power is getting minus. So it becomes nm to the power -2. So what do you mean by this unit then? It expresses the amount of force which is applied on 1 square meter of a certain area. Okay, force applied on 1 square meter. nm-2 means newtons per square meter. This is our unit. This unit is also referred to as pascals. Pascals. So 1 nm-2 is equal to 1 pascal, right? Okay, so let's see the answers. First one, Newton per square meter. Newton per square meter. So no. So here Newton per square meter is our answer, but in here you can see that the power is -1. This is not a square meter, this is Newton per meter, so it's incorrect. So this one is the answer, Newton per square meter. So our answer should be the second one. Then next one is Newton meters. By Newton meters we measure the rotational effect or the moment of a force. Then next one given Newton square meters. That's also incorrect, right? So our answer should be Newtons per square meter. Okay, newtons per square meter, Nm to the power -2, remember. Okay, it's because that you know that when you take m to the top side, it becomes -2. Okay, the power becomes negative. Right, so let's head on to see the third question then. Question number 3. What is the type of biomolecules in which hydrogen and oxygen atoms are combined in the ratio of 2:1? So, what is the type of biomolecules in which hydrogen and oxygen atoms are combined in the ratio of 2:1? So, you are given with responses: carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, nucleic acids. Right. So, my dear children, the basic biomolecules are given within this question: carbohydrates, proteins, nucleic acids, and lipids. So, in there, when you take a certain carbohydrate, now first of all, let's see what's the meaning of this ratio thing, hydrogen to oxygen. Now, when you take this particular substance, I think all of you know what this substance is. So, this is water, H2O. So, the type of biomolecule which hydrogen and oxygen atoms combine in the ratio of 2:1. So, here the hydrogen ratio is 2 and oxygen ratio should be 1. So, 2:1 like H2O. 2 hydrogen and 1 oxygen. 2:1 ratio. So, like that way, what is the biomolecule which contains in the same ratio as like this? So, you have to select that answer. So, my dear children, you know that when you take a certain carbohydrate, a carbohydrate is created same as to the ratio of water between hydrogen and oxygen. Even we can write this carbohydrate, the common formula for a carbohydrate, like this: some amount of carbon, and for that some amount of water molecules are joining together. Okay, so this is how we can write down a certain carbohydrate molecule. For a certain example, let's take C6H12O6. C6H12O6. You know that this is glucose. So, 6 carbon, you can take H2O like this and you can put like this, right? See, 6 times 2, 12, 6 times 1, 6. So, for 6 carbon atoms, 6 water molecules join together to create a glucose molecule like this. Okay, you know that glucose is the best answer. I mean, it is the simplest carbohydrate that we can observe in our environment and even in bodies of the organisms, right? So, my dear children, within carbohydrates, always remember the ratio between hydrogen to oxygen is always 2:1. In simple, a carbohydrate is created, right? A carbohydrate is created by bonding water molecules into carbon atoms. That's how carbohydrate is created, right? So we can write a carbohydrate like CxH2O to the power H2O n times of H2O. That means when changing this n value or x value, we can create different number of carbohydrates, or we can create carbohydrates with we can create a carbohydrate with different values of carbon and different values of H2O molecules. Like you know that there are certain types of carbohydrate, simple carbohydrates like the monosaccharides, which I have written over here, glucose. Then disaccharides, polysaccharides, like starch. So like that way, when changing the number of carbon atoms, for that particular carbon atoms, there is a certain number of water molecules which is getting joined. So according to that, different kinds of carbohydrates can be observed. Okay, so remember this formula, my dear children, and always remember, for certain number of carbon atoms, water molecules are getting attached to each other, and by that way a carbohydrate is created. So always remember, when you take a certain carbohydrate, the ratio is always 2:1 between hydrogen and oxygen. So our answer should be carbohydrates for this answer. So that's the biomolecule which hydrogen and oxygen combined in the ratio of 2:1. Carbohydrates. Right. So let's head on to see the next question then. Question number 4. Select the correct statement given about atoms. The correct statement about atoms, right? Okay. The nucleus of all the atoms of every element contains neutrons. So, you have to select the correct one, okay? Always, my dear children, when you are answering these types of questions, especially these MCQ questions are going to be somewhat tricky, okay? There can be several answers, but when you if you read the question quite well, by then only you can select a certain answer, a most appropriate answer, most suitable answer for the question which is given. So always remember, read these questions quite carefully, okay? Reading is the first and foremost thing to do. Read and understand the question, okay? Then only you can find out the correct answer. If you don't read out very properly, then sometimes you might think that, now this one is correct, this is my answer. But however, the question is asking a different one. Now in here also you can see the same thing. The question is asking the correct statement, but the nucleus of all atoms of every element contains neutrons. Sometimes you might think that, now you know that sometimes you have some clever guys may have studied about these atoms quite well, very well, like about the isotopes and other things. So those guys will definitely select the first answer. But however, that's not our correct answer. Let me elaborate somewhat more, okay? So the correct statement regarding the atoms. The first thing is given, nucleus of all atoms of every element contains neutrons. Is it correct? Is it correct? So you know that there are 3 types of subatomic particles in an atom: electrons, protons and neutrons. Usually each and every element contains protons and neutrons which are tightly packed within the nucleus of the atom. That's the center of the atom. However, my dear children, there is a certain element which do not have any of neutron. That is hydrogen 1,1 isotope. So you know that when you write this thing, this is the atomic number, which is the number of protons, and this is the mass number, which rectifies the sum of protons and neutrons. Sum of protons and neutrons can be observed within this mass number. When you take a certain element, at the left hand side, the bottom corner, you can identify the atomic number, and at the top corner you can identify the mass number. So my dear children, if the atomic number is 1, number of proton is equal to 1. It has 1 proton. So if it has 1 proton, my dear children, so in order to be the mass number 1, it shouldn't have any neutrons. If there is at least 1 electron, then 1 plus 1, it should become 2. Okay? But however, my dear children, when you take hydrogen, this is also referred to as protium. Okay? Hydrogen 1,1 is also referred to as protium. So when you take a protium atom, my dear children, or else hydrogen 1 atom, we won't be able to observe any neutrons in it, right? So the nucleus of all the atoms in every element contains neutrons thing. That is totally incorrect. That's not correct. Okay. So there is a certain element which do not have any neutron. That's hydrogen 1. So that's why I told you that don't go for the answer straight away. Think and get the answer correct one. Okay. Now let's see the second one. In every atom, the number of neutrons and the number of protons in the molecules are equal. Not at all. That's incorrect. In every atom, number of neutrons and the number of protons in the nucleus are equal. Let's take the third one, tritium, the third isotope of hydrogen. You already know that thing, no? You have learned these things. Hydrogen 1,3, this is tritium. Hydrogen 1,3. So it carries 1 proton. So in order to be the mass number 3, it should have 2 neutrons. So the proton count is not equal in here to the number of neutrons. So this statement is also incorrect. Number 3, atomic numbers of 2 atoms of different elements can be equal. Atomic numbers of 2 atoms of different elements, my dear children. Different elements. See, atomic numbers of 2 atoms in different elements. Different elements? Not at all. Actually, we classify the elements according to their atomic number, right? So atomic number is like an identity number, right? It's like when you take our identity card. So we have a certain identity card number. That number is unique to each person. That means there cannot be a person, there can be 2 people which has the same identity card number. Okay, they cannot be at all. Even though the 2 people are twins, that who lives in the same family, right, and having a same surname, like if all the characteristics are equal, even then we won't be able to observe same identity card number. The identity card number is going to be different from one person to another. That's how we identify, right? That's how we identify. That's how the same way is being applied over here. The same thing is applied over here even. Now, when you take the atomic number of a certain element, for a certain element, it's going to be a constant. Right? Atomic number is for an element, for one particular element is a constant. We won't be able to observe 2 different elements which has the same atomic number. If the atomic number is different, then that's a different element, my dear children. So this third statement is also totally incorrect. Okay? As they are mentioning different elements. Next one. There may be atoms with different mass numbers in the same element. There may be atoms with different mass numbers in the same element. Of course, it's correct. That's the correct answer. You can see it in the board, right? This is protium, hydrogen 1, atomic number 1, mass number 1. This is tritium, hydrogen 1,3, atomic number 1, but mass number is 3. Same element, but different mass numbers. See, there may be atoms with different mass numbers in the same element. So, same element, but different mass numbers. This is correct then. So, our answer should be the fourth one, right? There may be atoms with different mass numbers in the same element. Okay, these are the ones which are also called to as isotopes. Okay, isotopes. So isotopes can be seen even in carbon, sodium, and chlorine also. Like these are like several examples. But when you take the periodic table, we can identify isotopes like in most of the elements. Okay, right then. So this is the question number 4. Let's head on to see the 5th question then. Of the following plant tissues, which is a complex permanent tissue? Complex permanent tissue, huh? Complex permanent tissue. So what do you mean by a complex permanent tissue? Complex permanent tissue means, my dear children, it contains different kinds of cells which join together. That's going to perform a specific function, right? So tissue means, you know, that it's a collection of cells that performs a specific function. Okay. So when you take a complex permanent tissue, actually these things are related to the plants, right? When you take a complex permanent tissue in a plant, these tissues have created with different types of cells joins together to create a what? To create a special, or to do a special function. That's a complex permanent tissue. So in order to be a complex permanent tissue, remember there should be several types of cells. So when you take parenchyma tissue is created only with parenchyma cells. It's not a complex permanent tissue, right? It's not a complex permanent tissue. It's a simple permanent one, as it contains cells, contains cells that are identical to each other. These cells are the ones which are referred to as parenchyma cells. Okay, so parenchyma tissue is created with parenchyma cells. There's only one type of cell, parenchyma, that's it. So it's incorrect. Next one, collenchyma, same thing. Collenchyma is also, my dear children, right? Those things are also simple permanent tissue type, right? So which means collenchyma tissue is created by using collenchyma cells. So it's incorrect. Number 3, sclerenchyma, the same thing, right? Sclerenchyma tissue also contains sclerenchyma cells, right? So it's incorrect. 4th one given, xylem. So you need to select the complex permanent tissue. Let's remember about xylem. So xylem contains 4 different types of cells: xylem vessel elements, tracheids, xylem fibers, and xylem parenchyma. There are 4 different kinds of cells in xylem. So my dear children, xylem should be the answer for this one. Xylem contains 4 different kinds of cells. That's why it is referred to as a complex permanent tissue. There is another complex permanent tissue, right, which is phloem, right? Phloem tissue in plants. So phloem tissue helpful in transporting food or sucrose. Xylem is helpful for the plant in transporting water and minerals. So our answer should be xylem tissue. Xylem tissue. Okay. Right. Question number 6. What is the particle that contribute to flow of an electric current through a metallic conductor? What is the particle that contribute to flow of an electric current through a metallic conductor? So these two statements are quite important. Electric current, okay, flow of an electric current. Then the next one is metallic conductor. So metallic conductor, electric current, flow of an electric current. These two are the key statements that we need to consider when you are looking at the question number 6. So my dear children, when you take a certain metal, let's take magnesium. So you know that magnesium is created with 12 protons. It has 12 protons. So we can write magnesium like this, 12. So atomic number is 12. If the proton count is 12, then the atomic number is 12. So if the atomic number is 12, you know that the electron count is also 12. So the electronic configuration, right? Electronic configuration of magnesium can be written as 282. This is the electronic configuration. So when you take the electronic configuration, my dear children, these last two electrons are, right, always trying to, now magnesium, in order to have a stable electronic configuration, this magnesium atom is going to release these two electrons. So they always tending to remove electrons. So because of that, my dear children, this magnesium, the nucleus of the magnesium is having a positive charge, while two electrons are having two, like this, having negative charges like this. I mean, like, those electrons are freely movable electrons within the metal. Freely movable, free moving electrons, right? Free moving electrons. Why they are free moving? Because the atom of magnesium always try to remove those two extra electrons from the nucleus of the metal. Why do they have that kind of a property? It's because each and every atom tries to stable their electronic configuration, right? Somehow by taking, when you take a certain element which is in the 8th group of the periodic table, these things are also referred to as noble gases. Noble gases are having, right, they are having a stable electronic configuration. So all the other elements are also trying to get a stable electronic configuration. That's why they even make bonds, right? So magnesium is a type of a substance that would try to remove these two electrons. So always magnesium, when you take the magnesium substance or the metal, as it tries to remove those two electrons, these two electrons are always freely movable within the metal of the magnesium. Freely movable. That means they always try to move here and there, freely movable electrons. So when you provide electricity to this system, what will happen? Electrons will come from the negative terminal and will get repelled by the electrons contained, the free moving electrons contained within the metal. So these electrons are getting moved like this, and finally it will come back to the positive terminal because of that repelling process. In order to repel electrons like that, there should be free moving electrons. So free moving electrons are the main reason for the electrical conductivity of metals. So my dear children, the answer for this question should be what? The free moving electrons. So electrons are the ones which are helpful, right? Electrons are the ones which are helpful to flow an electric current through a metallic conductor. So our answer should be electrons. First one, electrons. Okay, electrons. Next one, question number 7. Okay, so questions 7 and 8 are based on the following chemical equation. So let's see the chemical equation. There's a chemical equation. M is given in the solid state, then zinc sulfate in the aqueous form, M sulfate or MSO4 in the aqueous form, then zinc solid has been displaced. So when you look at this chemical reaction, you can see that zinc, which was originally bonded with sulfate, was replaced by M element, and the replaced zinc now has been displaced to elsewhere. This happens mainly because, my dear children, now when you put a more reactive element to a solution of a less reactive substance, that less reactive substance is getting displaced while the more reactive element is going to create bonds, right? So this is the type of chemical reaction. This is a type of chemical reaction which we refer to as a single displacement reaction. One certain element is going to displace one particular element in a solution or else a substance, right? And creating new products like this. So this is a single displacement reaction. So in order to remove the zinc element like this M should be a more reactive substance than zinc. Okay, a more reactive substance than zinc. Zinc is a type of a metal, so definitely M should be a metal. So to compare the reactivity, right, in metals, we have a certain table which is referred to as the activity series. So can you remember about the activity series? Let me remind you. So activity series shows the descending order of reactivity in metals. So it starts with potassium, then calcium, sodium, magnesium, aluminium, zinc, ferrous. Okay. So potassium, calcium, sodium, magnesium, aluminium, zinc and Fe. Okay. Okay, let's remove this thing. Actually, Fe is not relevant now. We'll remove this thing. Right. Now, this is the order of reactivity in metals. Potassium is the highest reactive one out of these elements given. Right. So, this is the activity series, my dear children. So, in the activity series, this is potassium, the highest reactive of all. Then it should be not calcium, right? It should be sodium. So, you know that sodium is very high reactive. Because of the higher reactivity of sodium, even we store sodium in like paraffin or kerosene oil. So, sodium is very highly reactive than calcium. Okay. So, calcium is the next one. Right. So, potassium is the highest reactive one, then sodium, then calcium, magnesium, aluminium and zinc. So, in order to display zinc like this, right, zinc more than, so you have to apply a metal which is more reactive than zinc. That means it should be aluminium, magnesium, calcium, sodium or potassium. So select a certain answer that has one of these substance. So let's see the answers. Copper, no. Fe, iron, no. Magnesium, yes, that should be the answer. Then Pb, plumbum, that is also incorrect. So you have to select one of these because those are the ones which are more reactive than what? Zinc. Okay. Right then. So answer for the 7th one should be magnesium. That's the one which can display zinc out of their solutions, aqueous solutions, because of the higher reactivity, right? Okay then. What is the type of reaction which the above chemical equation belongs? Quite simple, my dear children. I told you the answer in the previous slide, even in the previous question. So this is a single displacement reaction, right? This is a single displacement reaction. So single displacement reactions always displace one particular element out of the equation, right? Out of the equation, that means from the previous equation or from the previous substance, one particular element is being displaced because of their higher reactivity, right? So like this. So now the earlier, I mean, like when you take the reactants, M is isolated, zinc sulfate is the solution. Now when you take the products, M is now creating the sulfate and zinc is being isolated, or it is being removed as a certain element. So our answer should be single displacement reaction, right? Single displacement reaction. This is the type of chemical reaction which we can observe here. So displacing a metal, displacing a certain metal according to the reactivity of the according to their reactivity, right? Now can you remember, according to the activity series the reactivity differs. So displacing a certain metal according to their reactivity is always a single displacement reaction, my dear children, right? It's always a single displacement reaction, right? Okay then, question number 9. The kingdoms to which only heterotrophs belong are. Kingdoms to which only heterotrophs are belong. So heterotrophic organisms. Who are heterotrophic organisms? Heterotrophic organisms are the organisms, my dear children, that depends on the food which produced by the autotrophic organisms like plants and algae. Okay, so algae and plants, these organisms do photosynthesis. Then by the process of photosynthesis, what will happen? Food is getting produced for the biosphere. Then heterotrophic organisms, they depend on the food created by these autotrophs through the photosynthesis process. Okay, so when you take a certain example, humans, we won't be able to produce our own food, right? We can't create our own food, not at all. We have to depend the food which is created by the plants or autotrophic organisms. So you might think that we eat meat or we eat flesh. However, those things are not coming from plants, no. But when you go for the root, my dear children, when you go for the source of the energy, then always there is a certain plant, I mean certain autotrophic organism, right? So plant being eaten by a rabbit, then rabbit is being eaten by a tiger or else a lion or any kind of a carnivorous animal. However, if there was not any plant, then rabbits are not there. If there are no any rabbits, then lions or any other carnivorous animals will not be there. Okay, so when you take a certain ecosystem, always plants or autotrophic organisms are the ones which produce food. Okay, so here you need to select heterotrophs, which means you have to select the response that carries only animals or things or organisms that depends on plants and other types of autotrophic organisms. That means they should go in search for food. They can't create food. Okay, so let's see the answers. Fungi and protista group, right? Protista group, here we can observe algae like Chlamydomonas and Ulva, and also we can identify unicellular organisms like Paramecium and amoeba. As the protista group contains algae is a type of autotrophic organisms which performs photosynthesis. Actually, algae are the main types of organisms or main types of producers within the aquatic environment. So protista answer is incorrect. Okay, protista group is incorrect because it contains algae. Next one, protista and plantae. Once again, my dear children, incorrect. Both the groups are autotrophic organisms, not heterotrophs. Plantae is also autotrophic because they do photosynthesis, plants, right? Then protista, once again I explained you in the You know that I have explained this thing in the previous question. When I was talking about the previous response, I have explained this thing. So protista, again, it's belong to the autotrophic organisms. So the second response, both the things are incorrect. Next one, Plantae and Animalia. Animalia is correct. All the animals depend on plants and other types of autotrophic organisms. It's correct. But however, you know that Plantae is incorrect. Okay. Next one, fungi and Animalia. Both the guys are, or both the groups are heterotrophic organisms, my dear children. Fungi depend on dead plant and animal materials. They can't produce food, right? They can't do photosynthesis. They can't do photosynthesis, they can't produce food. So, my dear children, fungi is a good example for a heterotrophic organism. Animalia, you already know, no? So, therefore, my dear children, our answer for the 9th question should be fungi and Animalia. Fungi and Animalia. This is the answer for the question number 9 then. Right. 10th question. Of the following structures, select the repeating unit of polythene. The repeating unit of polythene. Now, I have taught you about if you go through with the videos and all the study materials related to our DP Education channel, right? We have studied about the polymers, structure of polymers, and uses of the polymers within the lesson part, polymers, my dear children. Okay. So, over there, my dear children, we discuss few polymers that are mainly related with our day-to-day life and day-to-day activities. Over there, we discussed mainly about polythene. Then we have learned about the polyvinyl chloride or PVC. We have learned about Teflon, which is polytetrafluoroethene. Like that, we have learned about several polymers and why the use of these polymers has been increased within our day-to-day life. What are the adverse effects that will come out to our environment because of these polymers? Like that way, we discussed several things related to the polymers over there, and we studied that polymers are also created by using organic substances like this. There can be organic and inorganic ones also, but however, mainly within our lesson part, we have studied about organic polymers, which means it contains carbon as the main constituent. So, polythene, when you take polythene, my dear children, polythene, it refers to ethene. See, this is like polyethylene. Polyethylene is the one which we shorten down to polythene. Okay. So, it refers to an ethene molecule. Ethene means it's like this. Ethene. This is ethene. C2H4 is ethene. This is ethene. Now, repeating unit means, my dear children, now you know that in here, this molecule is a stable molecule, which means this molecule cannot further join any other element or substance. Okay, it's because already now, when you take each carbon atom, 4 bonds of carbon atom already has been completed. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So, in order to make a repeating unit, my dear children, as you can see, there is a certain double bond over here. So, what we can do is, we can break this double bond and we can occupy certain space. I mean, we can get a certain empty place like this to create some other different types of bonds like this. If you break the double bond over here, then my dear children, this carbon atom can join another substance to left hand side, and also this carbon atom can join another one to the other right hand side. So large number of these kinds of right units joins together in creating a polymer, right? So for an example, so this is one particular polythene, this is one particular molecule. Then I'm going to draw another one like this. See, there's another one. So there's a bond between these two, and also to the other side also another one comes like this. Now see, these units are repeated large number of times in creating a polymer, right, of polythene, right? So this is the ethene molecule. Now previously I took the ethene molecule, my dear children. This is not ethene molecule. This is the repeating unit created by breaking the double bond in ethene molecule. So the question is also asking repeating unit of polythene. Large number of these molecules joins together as a polymer to create the polythene polymer, my dear children. Okay, this process is referred to as the polymerization. So polymerizing these units together creates the polythene molecule. Okay, polythene molecule, it's a large molecule, my dear children. It contains large number of repeating units like this. Okay, so here we break the double bond in ethene molecule to create a repeating unit like this. So answer for this one should be 2 carbon, 4 hydrogen, and there should be 2 empty places like this. Okay, so our answer should be, this is not the one correct answer, so this one should be the answer, second one. This is the repeating unit. Check the third one. In the third one, my dear children, there is N over here. What do you mean by that? That means, my dear children, large number of these molecules joins together as a linear series. That's why we put N over there. That means N number of molecules are observed over there, which means this is not the repeating unit. This is the polymer created out of it. Okay, so we can't take that answer. If there is N like this, bracketing a certain repeating unit, then it's the polymer. That's how we represent a polymer, my dear children. Okay, then the fourth one, that's the ethene molecule, my dear children, right? So it's not you know that repeating unit means it should repeat like this. So we can't create a repeating unit by using ethene molecule. That's why we break the double bond so that we can create a repeating unit. Okay, so this is incorrect. This is just the ethene molecule. Okay, so answer for the question number 10 should be second one. This is the repeating unit of polythene. Okay, then the question number 11. Which is the phenomenon that cannot be explained by total internal reflection? The phenomenon that cannot be explained by total internal reflection. So what is total internal reflection, my dear children? So you know that in a refraction, when you take a certain refraction, my dear children, there are two media like this. Okay, there are two media like this. Then you know that in a refraction, what happens here is, during a refraction, the light rays are bent like this when traveling from one medium to another. This is the way of traveling a light ray when passing from one medium to another. So if you take two transparent media like water and air, this is how a light ray is passing from water to air. Water in here is the dense medium and air is the rare medium. So when a light ray is passing from denser medium to rare medium, light rays are bended away from the normal, which means this is the incident angle, this is the refracted angle. So incident angle is always smaller than the refracted angle. This is how a normal refraction works from denser medium to rare medium. So what will happen if I'm going to increase this particular angle like this? I'm going to increase this incident angle, right? So when I'm going to increase the incident angle of this one, when I'm increasing the incident angle like this, so it should go like this. See, when I'm increasing, it should bend like this. So there is a certain situation when I'm going to increase this angle, there's a certain situation where the light ray is going to travel along this surface. That means between denser and the rare medium, like along this surface. Over there, the refracted angle becomes exactly 90 degrees, like this. So let's draw a rough figure. So it becomes like this. Exactly, it is passing through the interface. So this is the normal, my dear children, right? This is the normal. So it exactly passes through like this. So this, within this kind of situation, right, in this kind of a situation, the refracted angle exactly becomes 90 degrees and the incident angle created at this particular moment is referred to as the critical angle. See, the critical angle. Critical angle. So at the critical angle, the refracted light ray is passing through the interface between dense and the rare medium. That means along this particular line. Okay. Right. Then, my dear children, what will happen if you increase this angle even more? If you increase the angle even more, then what will happen? Now it is like this. It becomes like this. You increase furthermore, it bends and travel to the same medium which it came from. So this phenomenon is referred to as the total internal reflection. Total internal reflection. It is like this, right? Light rays come into here and pass in that particular direction. Even though this is a refraction, right? It behaves like a reflection because of that critical angle thing. So the angle which is over here right now should be greater than the critical angle. Critical angle is the angle which is the incident, it is the incident angle when the refracted light ray is passing through the interface, which means if I am going to send a certain light ray at an angle which is similar to the critical angle of two medium, right? Two medium, then at that time, my dear children, what will happen? the refracted light ray is always passing through the interface between the dense and rare media. If I'm going to increase the angle, incident angle even more greater than the critical angle, in that time, my dear children, the light rays cannot pass to the next medium. It always bend and travel downward like a reflection. This process is referred to as the total internal reflection. So total internal reflection is observed heavily within diamonds. Why is that? Because diamond is having a very less critical angle. It has very less critical angle. So therefore, my dear children, we can observe when you take a certain diamond, we can observe like it glitters. Because the light rays are passing through the diamond and it will not be able to come outside. So it always over there, here and there, it's getting reflected here and there if it is being passed to the inner side of the diamond. So it's like this. You take a diamond like this. If light rays come towards it, it comes. If it is coming like this, then it will hit like here. Then it will come to here, then to here, then to here, once again to here, like that way. It always getting reflected here and there within the diamond. So the light ray will not come out. Why it is not coming out? Because the critical angle inside the diamond is going to be very less. So the light ray is not coming outside. It's always observed within the diamond. So the glitterness of diamond actually, it's like an illusion which is going to happen because of the refraction of light rays. Actually in here, the total internal reflection. Okay, right. Then there's another one which is called as the optic fibers. In high speed internet connections, we use optic fibers, right? It's like a thin glass kind of a fiber, right? When light rays are sent like this. So when a light ray is coming like this, and when it is going to hit on a surface of the optic fiber, same as the diamond, my dear children, optic fiber has very less amount of critical angle. It's created like that. So it comes to this this direction by the phenomenon total internal reflection. And once again it hits over here, then once again it comes to here because of the total internal reflection, and once again it hits here, then here, and coming out like this. So this is used in high speed internet connections because you can embed some data onto the light rays, and these light rays are traveled very faster through the optic fiber, then the connection is being established. So this is how we use the optic fibers in our communication networks. It mainly uses the phenomenon total internal reflection, right? Okay, then the third one, my dear children, when you take a prism. So I'm going to erase these things now. Let's erase the prism. So when you take a prism, my dear children, prism is also following this kind of an effect. It also follows this kind of an effect. So over there. So when you take a prism like this, I'm just going to draw the shape of it, not the entire prism, okay? So when you send a parallel light ray like this to this particular surface, it will come like this. So I'll use a different color so that you can observe it very clearly. It will come like this and hit on this particular surface, and it will bend like this, my dear children. So the light ray which is coming like this will show an angle or will bend at an angle of 90 degrees through a prism. This is also happening because of the total internal reflection, right? So traveling of light through optical fibers, correct. Making diamond shiny by cutting and polishing, once again correct. Turning a ray of light by 90 degrees through a rectangular prism, once again correct. But however, my dear children, Formation of a rainbow by dispersion. It's actually mentioned in the dispersion thing. It's not happening because of total internal reflection, it happening because of the dispersion thing. So our answer should be, my dear children, formation of rainbow by dispersion of white light into colors. This is the answer for the 11th question. Which of the following is a change that occurs after the process of fertilization of a flower? So after the fertilization of a flower, my dear children, you know that ovary becomes the fruit and the fertilized ovules are becoming the seeds. So those are the ones which continue the next generation, right, of a plant. Now sepals like structures are being worn out. So those are the changes that occur within a plant if you take a fertilized flower. Now over there we can observe those kinds of features. Now let's head on to see the responses then. Ovary turning into the pericarp. Incorrect, right? Ovary is not the one which is turning into the pericarp. Actually ovary becomes the fruit, right? So it is incorrect. Next one, ovules turning into seeds. So my dear children, that is the correct answer. Like I said, ovary, it is the one which ovary which is the one which is becoming the fruit, and the seeds are the ovules. Within the ovary you can observe ovums, no? So those ovums are getting converted into seeds, right, after the fertilization process. So this is the correct answer. So correct answer is the ovules turning into seeds for the question number 12. Right then. Question number 13. Which of the following is not a characteristic of a smooth muscle tissue? Not a feature, not a characteristic. Let's see. Cells being uninucleate. Cells being uninucleate. Now, uninucleate means, my dear children, it contains only one nucleus. That's it. Uninucleate. So, it's correct. Those cells are uninucleate. Okay. Having cross striations. Does smooth muscle cells have striations? Of course not. That's why those things are referred to as even as to smooth muscle cells, because those surfaces are smooth. Right? Striations are observed in cardiac muscle tissues and skeletal muscle tissues. So, my dear children, the answer for this question must be or should be the second one, having cross striations. There are no any striations in smooth muscle tissue, right? So the feature which is not a characteristic in smooth muscle cell is having cross striations. Let's see the third one. Cells are spinal in shape. That's correct. That's absolutely correct. You know that if you take the shape of a smooth muscle cell, it's like this, right? It's like this. So this is a smooth muscle tissue. So it's correct. Next one. Acting involuntary. That's also correct. Involuntary means we won't be able to control by our own or by our thoughts. So by our consciousness, we won't be able to control these smooth muscle cells. So therefore, it's involuntary controlled. That's correct. So the correct answer should be, my dear children, having cross striations. Smooth muscle cells do not have any striations. Okay, right. Then the question number 14. Consider the following statement given about mechanical waves. Mechanical waves, my dear children. Okay, mechanical waves. The frequency of the wave changes on entering from one medium into another. Now, that's why now this question is somewhat tricky. That's why I told you that, my dear children, you have to read out these questions very carefully and get the idea. So you know that when you take a certain mechanical wave, let's take sound. Sound is a good mechanical wave. No, sound is traveling within our usual normal environmental conditions. In our normal dry air, sound is traveling at a velocity of 330 ms minus 1, 330 meters per second. In water or in liquids, it travels even more faster, like 1000, 2000, 3000 and so on. When it is coming like up to when it is coming to like solids like concrete, iron, at that kind of a surface it travels, or at that kind of a substance it travels at 4000, 5000 like speed, I mean like in meters per second. So we know that the speed is getting changed in a mechanical wave when they are passing from one medium to another. That's totally correct. But however, my dear children, it's not referring about the speed. No, we know that the speed is changing. It's not referring about the speed. It's referring about the frequency. Frequency. So the frequency of the wave changes entering from one medium to another. Frequency changes. So my dear children, is it correct? Even though the speed is changing, frequency is not changed, my dear children. Frequency remains the same. Frequency is not getting changed, no. That's the number of vibrations that occur within the particles. So it's not getting changed. Frequency remains the same. However, the speed is getting changed, my dear children. Okay? Right. So this is incorrect. The speed of the wave does not depend on its frequency. Speed of the wave does not depend on its frequency. So, speed of the wave does not depend on its frequency. Then next one given, speed of the wave depend on the medium through which it travels. Speed of the wave does not depend on the frequency. Can you remember in the earlier part I told you that in here? Frequency of the wave changes on entering from one medium to another. So my dear children, I told you that it's incorrect because frequency is not getting changed. That means, my dear children, the speed is not dependent on the frequency, right? Frequency, so of the speed of the wave does not depend on the frequency. That statement is totally correct, no problem at all, because of the previous one, right? So this is correct. Next one, speed of the wave depends on the medium through which it travels. That's correct, my dear children. Can you remember earlier I told you that when a mechanical wave is passing through liquids, it has a certain speed. When it is traveling through air, it has a certain speed, and when it is traveling through solids, it has a certain speed. So when according to the medium, changes, right? Speed changes. So this is correct. So you need to select the truth statements. So truth statements are B and C, which is the fourth response. So that's why I told you this question is somewhat tricky, my dear children. It's given as the frequency, but you have to select not the frequency, but the speed. Okay? Right. Then the question number 15. Given below are some information regarding a certain element. It comes second in the order of abundance of the elements in the Earth's crust. From first and foremost sentence, you can select the answer. Second abundant element in our Earth crust. That's silicon, right? Let's see. Shows semiconductor properties. Like I said, silicon is the one which shows the semiconductor properties, right? Then next one, shows metallic properties as well as non-metallic properties. You know, silicon is a good metalloid. That is why they are showing metallic and non-metallic properties. Okay. So my dear children, the answer should be silicon. Just by checking the first statement, you can get the answer, because silicon is the second most abundant element in the Earth crust. Okay. The most abundant silicon based compound is silicon dioxide. Silicon dioxide. Silicon dioxide is contained within sand, then rocks, then silt, then mud. All of these structures are mainly formed with silicon dioxide. That is why silicon is the second most abundant element in our Earth crust. Okay, right. Question number 16 then. Group of students counted the number of animals in a unit area of an ecosystem. Those numbers are given below. Butterflies 2, spiders 1, snails 3, earthworms 1, leech 2, centipedes 1, gecko 1. What is the number of animals belonging to the phylum Annelida in the relevant area? Annelids, segmented worms, right? Annelids are also called to as segmented worms, or in just we can say that say those things as worms, right? So worms, identify the worms given in here. So earthworm, there is one. Leech is also belong to the annelids type of kind of a worm. We can take like a worm, right? It has a worm like body. So therefore, my dear children, 1 and 2, there are altogether 3 annelids. So answer should be 3. Yes, 3 is given here. Butterfly belongs to the arthropods. Then snail, mollusca. Then centipede, once again arthropod. Gecko, that's not even an invertebrate, it's a vertebrate, my dear children, right? So they're asking about the annelids. No, annelids are invertebrates, so you can ignore a gecko without any problem, right? Then the question number 17. Of the following compounds, what is the compound in which the percentage of oxygen by mass is 50%? So within this, when you take this molecule, my dear children, mass of the entire molecule, right, should contain 50% of oxygen. That means when you take the relative atomic mass of this molecule and when you take the atomic mass of oxygen, right, when you divide those two, it should be half or 2. Okay, right. Now let's see. NH4OH, nitrogen 14, hydrogen 1 times 4, oxygen 16, then again there is a hydrogen, we'll put here as 5, it's quite easy, you know, 5. So here 30 plus 5, 35. Oxygen is how much? 16. Oxygen is 16. So 35 over 16, it's not getting converted to 2. So therefore this is incorrect. Next one, calcium hydroxide. Let's see that one also. Calcium 40. Then here oxygen is 16. Then hydrogen is 1. That means 17 times 2, as there is 2. Calcium hydroxide. So 40 plus here 34. 74. 74. So oxygen, there is 2 times of oxygen. So 2 times 16, 32. 74 over 32. Once again, it's not getting equal to 2. 50% means, my dear children, it should be half, no? So when you divide the entire one by the oxygen mass, it should be 2. That means the reverse process of the previous one, okay? Right, now let's see. So this is also incorrect. Number 3, CH3OH. Carbon is 12 plus what, here 3, here 1, altogether 4 hydrogen. Then oxygen is 16. Then here 16 plus 16, 32. 32 division 16. The answer is 2. That means, my dear children, the entire mass of the molecule is 32. Oxygen is 16. When you take the percentage, here 1, here 2, here 1, it becomes exactly 50%. So our answer should be, my dear children, third one, CH3OH. CH3OH. Let's go for the fourth and the final one as well. Let's see whether it is correct or not. Let's see the fourth one. So in the fourth one, my dear children, there is magnesium, which is 24, plus carbon is 12, plus 16 times 3. So here 24 plus 12 is 36, plus here 48. So altogether it becomes here 70, 78, 84. 84. Okay, so 84, oxygen 48. So it is also not equal to 2. You know that it's not getting equal to 2. So therefore, my dear children, our correct answer is only the third one, which is CH3OH. Okay. Then question number 18. What is the advantage of using handle fixed to a door in occasions of opening and closing it? So you know that when you take a door handle is always at the far end like this. Okay, door handle is at the far end. So this is the rotational axis. This is the way of rotation. So we apply force like this, it goes way around like that. So we apply the forces onto the handle. Always the handle is located, when you take a certain door, the handle is located far end, at the far end of the door. I mean, it's very far away from the rotational axis. Why it is why it is somewhat far away from the rotational axis? It's because to increase the rotational effect given out by the force, my dear children. You know that this rotational effect depends on two factors. One thing is the distance between rotational axis and the point where the force which is applied, or the line of action of the force. The other one is the force which is applied. Okay. So here we can increase the rotational effect of force. Okay. So rotational effect can be increased within this door, my dear children, right, by increasing the length. When you increase the length, my dear children, by applying just a single push or a pull, that means by applying a very simple push or a pull, we can open or close a doorway. So the reason behind increasing the length between the rotational axis and the door handle is to apply less amount of force. By applying very less amount of force, we can directly open the door without any trouble, right, if the door handle is somewhat far away from the rotational axis. So my dear children, here actually the rotational effect is high. Actually what we are going to do is we are going to increase the length and we are going to increase the rotational effect given out by the force. But however, right, we can increase even the rotational effect by applying high amount of force, no? So applying door handle onto the far end corner is to minimize that force which is applied, right, and to increase the rotational force. How we can do it? By increasing the length between the rotational axis and the handle. So the main idea behind application of a door handle at the far end corner is to reduce the force that we apply onto the door and to open the door quite quickly and faster and quite efficiently. Okay, so let's see the answers. Advocacy of applying a low moment of force, incorrect. High moment, right? Being able to execute a greater rotation, that is correct. That's the correct that's a correct answer. But however, here you have to select the most appropriate one. Like I said, here we can apply a greater rotation, but however, our main idea is not to apply a greater rotation, but to reduce the force applied. So advocacy of applying a smaller force should be the correct and the most appropriate answer for this one. Okay, then reduction of the amount of work done, that is incorrect, right? So our correct answer should be third one, the advocacy of applying a smaller force. That's why we keep the handle at the far end corner, I mean somewhat far away from the rotational axis of the door. Okay, right, then the question number 19. In the male reproductive system, sperms are produced in, this is quite simple, my dear children, sperm cells are produced in the testicles or testes, right? So penis is the muscular gland which is helpful to remove semen into the female reproductive system, right? These are the parts of the reproductive system. So prostate gland and seminal vesicles, those are the ones which are helpful in creating semen, right? So those are the semen is the white color fluid which helps in providing nutritional medium for the sperm cells. So my dear children, the correct answer for the 19th question, sperm cells are produced in the testicles. Sperm mother cells are produced within the tubes called seminiferous tubules. Okay. Remember these things. Sperm mother cells are produced in seminiferous tubes and sperms are produced within the testicle according to these responses. Okay, right. Then the question number 20. What is the statement that is true with respect to all the molecules given below? All the molecules, okay? Carbon dioxide, ammonia, water. These are the molecules. Let's draw and show the structures of those things. Let's draw the dot cross diagrams. Carbon dioxide, CO2. So it's like this, no? Oxygen, oxygen. So you know that you have to put like the lone pairs. So this is the dot cross diagrams for dot cross diagram for carbon dioxide. Then ammonia. Let's see the dot cross diagram of ammonia. So ammonia has two lone pairs. Ammonia, I mean nitrogen has 5 electrons in the last energy level. So to create bonds, nitrogen only use 3. So this is ammonia, dot cross diagram of ammonia. The next one, H2O. Oxygen, 2 lone pairs like this. Then hydrogen atoms. Okay. So these are the dot cross diagrams or dot and cross structures for each and every molecule given here. Let's see. So you have to select the correct statement, true statement. Let's see. The electron octet of the central atom of the molecule is complete. Octet is complete. Let's see. Octet means around the central atom there should be 8 electrons. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Correct. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Once again correct. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Correct. Actually, my dear children, when you take a covalent bond, right, most of the times octet is getting completed within the covalent bonds. There are some rare occasions like PCl5, AlCl3, aluminum chloride. In those occasions, the octet is not getting completed. Actually, in PCl5, it go way beyond than the octet. Around the central atom, there are 10 electrons in phosphorus pentachloride. Okay, PCl5. Then in aluminum chloride, there is only 6 electrons. So like that, there are some special cases where the octet is not getting completed, but however, within these molecules, my dear children, octet is completed. So our answer should be the electron octet of the central atom of the molecule is complete. Let's see the other one. Only single bonds occur among the atoms. Incorrect. In here, you can observe a double bond. Lone pairs of the electrons are present on the central atom of the molecules. Once again incorrect. Within this carbon molecule, within this carbon dioxide molecule, you can't observe any lone pairs, right? In the central atom, there are no any lone pairs. Lone pairs are the ones like this, right? Within a lone, now when you take a lone pair means when you take the, now here you can observe there's a lone pair. Lone pair means, my dear children, within the central atom, if the electrons are not getting used to create bonds, then those pairs are lone pairs. Okay, these are bonded pairs. So within the central atom of ammonia and water, there are lone pairs in the central atom, but however, in here, within this carbon dioxide molecule, within the central atom, there is no lone pairs. Next one. The molecules exist only as gases at room temperature. The molecules exist only as gases. Incorrect. Water is available as a liquid, no. Right? So incorrect. These two are gases. But however, water, it is a liquid. So it is incorrect. Right, my dear children. So we have discussed 20 MCQ questions in our first part of the paper. So I'm going to stop here and to continue the next part in our next chapter. So stay with me till the end of the paper, right? And I'm going to start the second part of this MCQ lesson part, okay, in our second chapter. So let's start the next questionnaire part in the second chapter.
To watch these important lessons, subscribe to DP Education's YouTube channel right now. Click on the bell icon to stay updated on the latest lessons. Sri Lanka's largest free online school, DP Education.